Hello, my name is Justin Patterson. I'm the Client Service Manager for Skeena Meadows Wildlife Preserve, a steelhead fishing lodge in northern British Columbia. Prior to that, I worked for 8 seasons as a fly fishing guide in southeastern British Columbia and was asked to speak briefly about the impacts of climate change on the sport fishing industry in BC. I think the starting point for any conversation regarding climate change and sport fishing in particular is that you recognize that the sport fishing industry in British Columbia is continually in competition with other similar industries worldwide. The big takeaway is that any impact on your fishery for the negative is going to have a very serious impact in the number of dollars brought in. A perfect example of this would be the collapse of the Elk River as a viable fishery owing to the flooding that occurred there 2 summers ago. It was the same year that Calgary saw the record rainfall that canceled the Calgary Stampede. And what you had in that situation was a river that was unfishable, and immediately, because there are so many alternatives, all the anglers who had scheduled trips on the Elk River merely decided to move those trips elsewhere, whether it be to Montana, another stream in southeastern British Columbia, etc. But it does give an idea of how vulnerable and how susceptible these fisheries, and indeed the industry, is to changes. Now, when we're dealing with climate change, that can manifest itself in so many different ways that it's really difficult to know where to begin. Obviously, when you have an event, a freak event like an oil spill or flooding, as we saw again on the Elk River, I mean, that's a bit of a one-off, and you can chalk that up to, again, these random occurrences. But part of the larger conversation has to be about, well, what factors are at play that are contributing to this? Are we dealing with, decreasing snowpacks or increasing snowpacks due to climate change and fluctuation? Are we dealing with warming trends that result in larger volumes of water during runoff that negatively impact insect population, insect biomass, which then in turn negatively impacts the healthiness of the fishery as a whole? And so all of these
Average annual temperatures have increased by between 0.5 to 1.7 degrees Celsius in different regions of British Columbia. In fact, parts of BC have been warming at a rate higher than the global average. Over the last 50 to 100 years, BC has lost up to 50% of its snowpack, and total annual precipitation has increased by about 20%. Weather patterns are increasingly becoming erratic, and communities have been experiencing longer summer droughts.
This is Goldie. She likes a really specific temperature in her fishbowl to stay alive. If I were to take her and I were to dump her into this pond over here, she probably wouldn't last very long and she wouldn't be very comfortable. Just like the fish in our lakes and our rivers, they need a really specific temperature to be healthy and to keep growing. So as the water temperatures rise due to global warming, our fish populations are dying off. They're in search for cooler and cooler pockets of water, which they just can't find. So that's why global warming is really affecting our fish population. Fish populations are highly vulnerable to changes in water temperature, water levels, ice conditions, changes in predator population, and extreme weather events. Increasing water temperatures in the ocean and BC's rivers, lakes, and streams has already affected salmon populations, resulting in significantly lower harvests in recent years. The sockeye salmon spawning in southern rivers are particularly vulnerable to extreme temperatures. In 2004, the Fraser River was 4 degrees Celsius higher on average and resulting in a 90% drop in early runoff. Flooding of rivers and streams create a larger mass in rivers. Floods also scrub rivers out, which decreases the amount of nutrients the fish need to survive. For example, when the flooding in Calgary happened in 2013, the Bow River's fish populations decreased significantly because the population of mayflies, a main nutrient source for fish, disappeared. Therefore, if there isn't enough insects, the fish will struggle. Although this event occurred in Alberta, rivers in East Kootenays of BC took a hit as well.
Despite these challenges, governments and communities in BC have demonstrated their commitment to adapting to climate change by investing in efforts to better understand and identify opportunities. A few ways to help tackle these issues are through education of the public and the fishing communities on how climate change is affecting our industry, push for more up-to-date policies from government agencies on water management, protection of lakes, rivers, and oceans, policies on businesses situated along riverbanks and waterways, as well as policies for proper protocol of ships, boats, and tankers in our ocean. Other ways in which we can adapt to these issues is through the manipulation of fish populations and habitats, by restoring the riparian ecosystems, improving the passageways for fish to swim, and enhancing the population with the help of hatcheries. And lastly, by donating to research, conservation, and nonprofit organizations such as Pacific Salmon Foundation, Sacred Headwaters Coalition, Flathead Valley Conservancy, Living Oceans, and the Water Wealth Project, just to name a few. In conclusion, climate change has a significant impact on the fly fishing industry, and in turn impacts all of tourism in BC. It's important now more than ever to help mitigate and also adapt to these changing environments around us in any way that we can. Hope you enjoyed our video presentation and perhaps you learned something, because you just got school!